This is And Now You Know, and in studio are some of the most fascinating specimens in the world.
Hi, folks. My name is Marlow Hooper. I'm a law clerk, and I drink my coffee the fancy way.
Kevin Bailey, technical recruiter and an expert at talking about absolutely nothing.
Brittany Machado, producer and the new kid on the block.
And I'm Austin Cross, voice actor, producer, wedding singer, and your host. And Now You Know is a show that talks about the issues that are important, of course, to you. Today, we're debunking the myths of dating after college. Is there such a thing as the one the heart says yes, but experts might not agree? It's been said that all good guys are taken by 29, but is it true? And here's one that will get you really excited. Guys, can a woman ask you out? Plus, we have the myths of marriage, all that and much, much more coming up on And Now You Know.
Come together right now over me.
This is And Now You Know, and are all the good men taken? Men, what about the ladies? Is it harder to find that dream girl? Well, we're here to help you figure it out. But first, we're going to ask the question, why do people even get married so young? We start today, somebody other than Marlow. We start with Kevin.
Well, I think it should first be mentioned that millennials in general were not getting married nearly as young as our parents did. Only 26% of people aged 18 to 32 are currently married, as opposed to the baby boomer generation, 48% of people were married at the same age. This is according to CNN.com.
Okay, so you have the numbers, though, but let me ask you this. I mean,
Yes.
from your personal opinion, people are getting married, though. We've seen quite a few. If you just scroll through your Facebook friends, you see a lot of white dresses.
Right.
Why are people getting married so young?
Well, I think when you're younger, I think people are a little bit more impulsive just in general. And
I blame Pinterest. I blame Pinterest. For those of our listeners who do not know what Pinterest is, it's this site where you can pin up where any user can pin up all sorts of different pictures. And I know, at least in our generation, women are obsessed with it. Is that true?
Really?
Brittany, let me ask you.
Yes, please.
I think that it has to do with the fantasy. I think that it really is like this wedding industry, and I will rail on that all day long.
Please do.
People want to have these very fancy weddings, and I don't honestly know anybody who has had a super positive experience leading up to the wedding, and then it's this day, and then you have the rest of your life you have to live with that person. And so I think that it actually has something to do with like the glamour and getting your moment to finally post on your Facebook album.
It's
wedding
all
day.
glam. It's all glam. I mean, the average wedding these days is what, $20,000?
It's in the 30s, I think, now.
Wow,
30 and
really?
above
So
now.
how are we paying for this? Who's paying?
our parents.
Yeah, but
because
I
we
mean-
have student loans.
So let me ask you this, though, because I'm probably a more pragmatic person here, but $30,000 on a wedding or have her parents pay for a house, down payment on a house. Wouldn't it be a better idea, though?
It'd be a better investment, I'd say.
I think so.
I think people are also getting married for another fantasy, which is this idea that marriage will solve all your problems and that you will have the romance and you will have the house and the kids and the career, and all of it will culminate in this one beautiful semi-ecstatic state of being. And then you realize that there's actually traffic and budgets and all sorts of stuff.
Real
and it's
life.
just not what we're told it's supposed to be.
And you know what? It's so depressing. Let me tell you what's depressing. What really chaps my hide is when I go on my Facebook newsfeed and I see these people that posted happy marriage pics 6 months ago, and now you're reading posts such as, it just didn't work out. Some things
Does that
are
happen?
never meant to be.
6
Yes,
months?
6 months. I've seen people,
Do people post that on Facebook?
and
Like, really?
What it is, it's subtle changes. Like you'll see like a profile picture with a couple in their marriage attire, and then a year later, it's like you see like the one person by themselves, and then the status, it's complicated, and then all of a sudden, another few months later, like the person has no pictures of their previous significant other on their page anymore, and it's so socially awkward. I feel that people are rushing into this big life decision without thinking things through fully.
You know what? Having gone to a Christian college and knowing a lot of people who got married for religious reasons, which may be fine. I mean, make sure you found the right person. But my way to tell if people are not on good terms or they're really rocky in their relationship, they start posting really sad Bible verses in their statuses.
That brings up a good topic, I think a lot of the reasons why people are getting married so young is religion. Religion puts a lot of pressure on our society.
So most of them, really.
They do it because God tells them to do it.
Does he?
I mean, well, maybe that's a little harsh.
I think it would be more of, if you're religious, you're going to get married so you can have sex.
Yes.
I think that's
Yeah.
ultimately what it's coming down to.
Wow.
Think about it. I know a few people that are married relatively young, and I mean young, like 19 years old, 20 years old, Now, why would a person who just got out of high school, doesn't have a job whatsoever, why are they in such a rush to get married when they can be with this exact same person for maybe another 5-6 years, get an education, get a career, and make that big life decision then?
Because they won't, though. If they go away to college and they go to different colleges and they're meeting new people, they won't stay together. They do it as a way
as
to
a crutch.
retain.
But is that what marriage is today? Is that what it should be?
Yeah. I think so.
Where you're so nervous that the other person's going to leave you that you have to put a ring on it.
You better put a ring on it.
I think that has something to do with it, right? Like, things are so crazy. The economy is crazy. We have so many things that are up in the air. I think marriage probably provides some kind of psychological security for a lot of people of like, there is one thing in my life I can control.
Wow.
That's interesting.
You find it, and it's really common, especially with people who are very religious. And I think I want to go back to your point, which is I think people get married a lot of times because they feel that guilt of having sex before marriage, and they know that if they're married, they can't have sex. Is that a good reason to get married?
You know what, Kevin? You reminded me of an interesting point. Now, we talked about this years ago. You told me your dad's a psychologist. What was he telling you about religious couples and they'd go see him? Something about premarital relations or something like that?
Well, typically, he found that, and this is, I'm speaking in generalities. I don't have any facts to really back this up. Just what he has told me, that a lot of the people that came into his office were religious people who were having problems with sex because they had never had sex before. And after telling themselves years and years and years from saying, no, don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex, it was really hard for them, now that they were married, to turn that on and say, okay, have at it. There were still a lot of psychological issues, and they were still having trouble actually being intimate with each other.
Kevin, to your point, I actually am producing a documentary called Give Me Sex, Jesus.
Interesting title.
And it's all about evangelicals and sexuality. And I think the idea that getting married so you can have amazing sexual romps and to have the fantasy and your life played out, but you don't have any of the regular stuff like sexual activity before marriage, it does kind of mess things up. And I think that marriage is seen as a solution, and it often creates more problems for people who aren't prepared for it.
The one thing I just want to make clear is that I am an advocate for marriage. I am maybe one of the biggest advocates for marriage that I know. However, it's so depressing seeing people doing it wrong today. I mean, granted, I know that all the stars aren't going to line up. You're not going to have the perfect job before you get married. You're not going to be in the perfect location. You're not going to have all the things that you want. However, there are better times to get married.
I don't understand it. I mean, of course, I understand about sex, but why do people get married before 26? Why? What's the reason? Can someone give me like a valid reason?
If you're not actually doing it, with anybody, by 26, you probably really want to do it.
Maybe they don't realize what monogamy is. Like, if you're making a monogamous commitment forever in perpetuity, then you don't know what that means at 26. You know what that means at 40 better than you do at 26.
Sure.
And so maybe you're signing up for something you don't know all the terms of the contract.
Marriage really is just a contract. I mean, we put all this, magic on it, about eternity and, being together forever. But if you can do that, you can be boyfriend and girlfriend. A marriage is just a contract that people have with each other.
But I think it's more than a contract. It's the commitment. And it's that commitment to the other person, you telling them that through the thick and thin, through whatever life may throw at us, we are going to not only stick together, but we are going to figure out this thing called life together.
And I think, of course, there are people who actually believe in the concept of the one. And when we come back, we're actually going to talk with an expert about that. So this is And Now You Know. Of course, we'll be right back in just a few minutes. Coming up, have you ever thought you found happily ever after until it ended? We'll talk about it. This is a good time to check us out on Facebook. Check us out at facebook.com/And Now You Know Radio. That's facebook.com/And Now You Know Radio. We'll be back.
My life is cold. You put the flame on it. This heart of mine. You wrote your name on it. With such a style.
This is And Now You Know. And hey, do you believe in the one? I think somebody in the studio used to. We're back with more. And so here, Marlow and I were in high school together. And when we sat in chemistry class, we talked about our futures, and Marlow believed in that supreme one, the one who would make his life amazing in every way. But Marlow, do you believe in it now?
I do believe in the one. And it's funny because I do remember those times back in high school, you and I were extremely optimistic.
Of course.
And through the years, I believe I retained my optimism. However, I've just become more realistic, for better or worse. I mean, it happens with age. I mean, we were young.
Yeah.
We hadn't been in that many relationships by that time in high school. But, since then, that was almost 9-10 years ago. We've gone through experiences. We've moved. We've changed. We've grown up a little more.
Do you really think there is only one person for you in this entire world? That there are not other people, even in Los Angeles, that you are that are potentially more compatible
I'm sure
than with the relationship
that
you're in now? I'm not saying that you're in a bad relationship.
That
I'm just
there
saying,
is a cornucopia of people out there that are compatible with you in many different ways. However, I feel that there's a certain person that's a little more compatible for you. And if you've met that person, if you're with that person, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about.
A little more compatible.
I think that's dangerous, because what if the person you're with, we love you, Brianna, but what if there's somebody a little more compatible than her?
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh,
how do you know?
There's always somebody else, right?
Well, doesn't it also have something to do with what stage of life you're in? Like, you could be with somebody who is a really good partner for you right now, but you will both change.
Absolutely.
And I actually think we need to learn how to break up well. We should enjoy who we're with at the moment, and we should figure out better, more sustainable ways to have relationships together.
So how do you break up well then? I'm curious.
I don't know. I think it has a lot to do with respecting the person enough to say I love you and we've had a really good run and let's go our separate ways. And there are ways to kind of separate that out, and you can do that very lovingly and in a wonderful way.
Absolutely. I agree. When I was out in law school out in Florida, I was dating a girl out there. We broke up cordially because I moved back to California, and she wasn't going to come to California. She wasn't going to move there, and I wasn't moving back to Florida. So I do believe that you can have a cordial breakup. And in that sense, it kind of proves what we were talking about earlier, that there are people that are compatible for you. However, the girl I was dating at the time was compatible for me then. However, I feel like I found my most compatible match that I've ever met right now.
But how do you know? How do you know? You're saying that there's some people that are compatible for you, but then there's another person that's even more compatible for you. How do you know that you're currently in the relationship with a person that's more compatible for you as opposed to just the compatible stage?
And you see, that's a concept when it comes to the one, and actually we have a very special guest to talk with us about this. Joining us, celebrity doctor with the ABC network, marriage and family therapist, Rick Shuman. Dr. Rick, is there such a thing as the one?
I personally do not subscribe to this idea of a soulmate partner. I don't like the word. I think the implications that there is one magical person out there that will understand and know you inside out and anticipate your every word and every need, I think is just beyond what's a reasonable expectation of a partner. I think there are a variety of great people out there for you, and I think the standard that it sets is way too high.
Preach, Dr. Rick, preach. I just think that
Dr. Rick.
in the house. But I think his point is fantastic, which is you don't have that silver bullet for your life, which is this magical unicorn of another person. You've got friends that you go to for projects. You've got friends that you go to drink with. You've got friends that you go hiking with. You've got these different subsets of your social life. And I think to think that there's one person who's going to culminate and be this idealized version of all those little sectors of your life is so not going to happen.
I feel like you need to find somebody who you're 70% compatible with, and if they meet that 70% quota, then they're good.
A lot of that
I'm gonna
too
put a
is,
ring on it.
Put a ring on it. A lot of that too is you grow together, so you become more compatible as you grow together. I feel
that doesn't seem very high. I mean, to
are
be
you
honest,
kidding me?
What if you found somebody who seemed like they were 80?
That's a C minus, Kevin.
That's the C.
It's a C
part.
minus.
It's huge. That's what, almost 3/4
It's a C minus.
who
That's
you
pretty
are.
good.
That's pretty good considering that
Horrible
people
GPA.
in general, we clash. I mean, have you ever had roommates? I mean, or anyone that you've lived with? It's really hard to live with somebody because we all have our different paradigms. We all think differently. So I think 70%, when you really think about it, if you're on the same page 70% of the time forever, that's pretty
But
impressive.
would you be each other 70%? Like, say, for example, you found somebody who's your 70%, but to her, you're her 65%. Does that mean that she's going to be looking for somebody who's still more compatible with her than you? That's a lot of room for error.
And what does that do for marriage? I mean, maybe this is just the optimist in me, but when I get married, I like to go into my marriage knowing that, hey, this person is the most compatible for me. I don't want to go into my marriage thinking, Brianna, you're pretty good, but
We'll see how this works.
The world's a big place.
Let's give it a 5-year. Let's give it a 5-year try, and we'll see where we're at.
Hey, some countries
divorce.
do that. There's what is it? One of the Scandinavian countries where you actually have to go and physically have your marriage license renewed every 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Because what it does is it makes couples actually consider where they're at. It's more of a choice. Do you want to stay married?
Ooh, that's dangerous.
Good in America.
Do you know how many divorces we would have if there was like a 5-year checkup?
They'd be so much cleaner, though. I mean, right now we have these really just messy divorces,
and
kids and homes. And
the divorce rate
But
is
then Marlow
60%.
wouldn't have a job.
that's true.
The divorce rate is 60% right now in our country. That's already sad enough. But maybe, this 4-year Scandinavian plan, maybe we do need something like that here in our
Is it sad,
society.
or does it give us an idea that people are rushing in a little too soon, that people should maybe remain in the relationship kind of area until they really have stuff worked out?
They need to know more about themselves first, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I don't feel people should get married so young. My magical age is 26. Yes, it's just a random number, but I think I read somewhere when you're 26, your brain has stopped growing and your personality is just set. So for the, obviously you're going to change as you grow, but in general, your principles and your understanding about the world and yourself are pretty set. Before 26, you don't know who you are, and if you don't know who you are, how are you going to be able to find somebody else and be able to take care of somebody else if you don't know yourself?
Hey, Kevin, you're 26, right?
Uh-oh.
Where's that ring, Kevin? Where's that ring, Kevin?
I love my girlfriend, by the way.
Very nice. Well, let me ask you this then, because there is this concept. It's an invisible idea called settling, right? And so you talked about your 70%, but you do see people sometimes who aren't evenly matched, right? You see very attractive people with a partner that's maybe they've been hurt by so many really attractive people before that they want to go down a little bit. But that really says to me one thing, and I know this gets really deep and philosophical, psychological. It means that your needs can really be determined by you up here first.
True.
Of course.
And when we say 70%, what is 70%? I'm not going to get out, an Excel spreadsheet, get out my calculator and start, thinking, okay, you're about 65.4, so we're going to need to work on a few things.
Okay, that comes down to what's really important to you, though. So, I mean, if you had your short list of 3 things that are important in a mate, what are they?
I think humor is important.
Nice.
Intelligence, to me, is extremely attractive. It's one of the reasons I absolutely love my girlfriend. She's extremely intelligent, and humor, obviously, is important as well. And you have to be able to argue well. Your
girlfriend's a lawyer, Kevin. I don't think you'll ever win.
She can argue quite well, but you have to play fair in arguing, because if you get too unreasonable and irrational in your arguing and you can't listen to the other person and really try to work on something, then it's impossible. I don't think you'll ever be able to move forward in your relationship.
That is so true. Brittany, what do you look for in the perfect mate?
Well, I actually want to go back to what you said about like physical attraction.
Okay.
And yeah, there are definitely studies that show that people kind of pick mates who are sort of physically equivalent to them in a lot of ways. But also, you never know what their sexual life is like. You can't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, that's very true.
Really? So how so? I mean, how? How does this work? Explain it to me, please.
I think that there is this...
Let's get a PowerPoint out.
There's this completely crazy cultural myth that we've developed, which is like beautiful people have better lives. And that's not necessarily true. And so for me personally, when I see like a supermodel or something, I think, ooh, I wonder if it hurts when she has sex. She's so tiny. But your physical attraction, it has to do with like chemistry with another person. And so you need to develop that. And it's about touch. It's not just about like objectifying and like looking at a pretty thing that gives you pleasure and creates bonds and relationships. It's actually, getting to love and know another person.
The guys told me that we needed a girl for this show, and we knew that Brittany was the perfect girl to have on the show. Let's have Marlow wrap it up.
At the end of the day, it ultimately comes down to setting up your expectations and knowing what it is that you are truly seeking. Maybe there is more than one person that you're compatible with in society. The only way to know, first of all, if you're single, is to get out there and try. But if you're in a good relationship, I don't think it's healthy to sit, wait, and wish and wonder about what else is out there. I think that's just detrimental to any relationship. And if you're with that person and that person loves you and you've been through the thick and thin, then that is the person for you.
There's definitely value to that. And when we come back, the myths of marriage. And hey, we want to know what you think. Leave us a comment on our Facebook page, facebook.com/and now you know radio. That's facebook.com/and now you know radio. We've got a lot more coming up.
I can do anything I want because I look good in leather. I can talk any kind because I look good in leather.
And we're back with more, and now you know, and it's time for and now you know lightning round, and it's going to be big. And today we start off with 3 topics for our final segment, and the first one is, can the ladies ask the gentlemen out? We're going to start, of course, with Brittany on this one.
Yes, absolutely. Why not?
Nice, short answer, to the point. There you go. What? Why?
Why?
Because it's 2014. That's why.
It's 2014,
because it's the
baby.
age of Obama. That's why.
Is it strange?
Thank you, Barack Obama.
What's strange
for allowing
about it?
women
Let me
to-
ask you that.
Here's
What's
the thing.
strange about it?
I think that men are evolutionarily the sort of creatures who only really appreciate what they work for. So, I mean, if somebody just came up to them, they might say, yeah, of course we can go out, but would he treat her like she is his one and only, his precious jewel? Would that really
I don't
happen?
want to be anybody's precious jewel.
Okay.
You won't own me.
No, but I think that's sort of crazy. I don't know. I know a lot
Thanks.
of men. No, but I mean, I know a lot of men who don't have that sort of like possessive, I need to own and like command the situation. There's like a multiplicity of men out there. And also, what about people who are lesbian or people who are gay?
Oh. I'm sure they have an equally hard time, but just kind of bringing it back about guys asking, or can girls ask women out? Or girls ask women out.
Tell me about that, Kevin.
So we brought it back already.
Tell me about
Brought it back. I actually had a quick conversation with my girlfriend about this, and I was asking, do you think women can ask guys out? And she said, yeah, I asked you out. And I went, what?
Ooh, you got played.
No, wait, no, hold on. No, you didn't. Because I remember asking you out for, I think it was like coffee or something. Actually, I shouldn't say coffee because last
Yeah,
episode-
last
You were hating on coffee.
It wasn't coffee.
Kevin
It wasn't coffee.
exposed.
It was a Silver Lake screening. It was a screening in Silver Lake. Because I'm cultured. And she told me, well, yes, you did that. But if you remember, I sent an email to you saying, hey, I had a really great time. We should hang out. And I went, all right. Yeah, you did, didn't you?
I will agree. I mean, women, just as much as anybody else, know what they want.
But she had told me, and I think really rightly so, she says women ask guys out, but they have to do it in a way where it makes guys feel like it was their idea.
So why?
Yeah.
It's just like a little
Because-
trick you have to play because men are like, I have to be the person who does this.
Guys are stupid, right?
But then again, I mean, if
We don't know.
any attractive woman comes up to any guy and asks them out, 99.7% of the time, that guy's gonna say, heck yes.
Yeah, I know, but you know what's terrible in our society? If we're really, really honest, if a woman was really dressed up and she came up to you and asked you out, you might think like, well, is she a call girl? Or just be perfectly honest.
Kevin, you might think that.
I mean, be perfectly honest. If like a person like asked you out,
You're like,
if
all
say
my
you
dreams are coming true.
Put it this way: if you met a beautiful woman at the bar, right, and you only knew her for just a couple of hours, and you were having a good time, and then she asked you out like the next day, in a way that sounded really provocative, you could in your mind maybe think like, well, what's going on? Why is she asking?
I think it ultimately
me
comes
out?
down to confidence and what your dating record
Do you
is.
think a call girl would email you the next day?
No, I'm not saying this is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think this is our sexism in our society. I'm not agreeing with this, but I'm just saying that's how our society takes it, is that beautiful women don't ask guys out.
So it's either for like a woman, her choice is either wait to get asked out or be taken for a professional sex worker.
Yeah. That's really like a very hard line. isn't it?
You email.
So email is the solution.
No, maybe I'm ranting off too much about this, but I'm just saying, think about, that how society is, where these beautiful women, when you ask a guy out,
so it
can intimidate them. It can make them feel like, what's
Why are
going
guys
on?
so insecure then?
Because we're stupid creatures.
Okay, now we've touched on that, and now it's time for our second topic in the lightning round, and it's something that we kind of touched on before. You go out on a date, and who picks up the tab?
This is one of those things where I'm actually kind of old-fashioned about. I think the guy should pick up the tab for the first time. I think a lot of times the guys are the ones that are making the first date, so you have a little bit more of control over where you go, and you need to expect the kind of cost that's going to happen and pay for the first meal. Now, after that first meal, then I think it's a little bit better to maybe go, Dutch.
Well, we have to ask the girl in the
All right,
studio.
go
now.
ahead.
I think it should be whoever does the asking should pay for the bill.
I like- okay.
Or you can go splitsies.
But if a guy came up to you honestly and you had a date and he said, hey, so do you want to split this? You're not telling me in the back of your mind
Well,
that's not irking you a
From
little
my
bit.
perspective, though, if you're dating as a woman and you want to maintain some power. Like, you don't want to feel like you're obligated to do anything at the end of the date.
True.
It's actually really beneficial to go half and half and just be like, I really enjoyed it. I'm really glad you asked me out. Like, let's just go down the middle on this one.
I feel that, as you said earlier, Kevin, chivalry's not dead. And I believe that if guys, this is my message to all the guy listeners, make a good first impression. Offer to pay. It'll make the date better, I think. And I feel that it just shows the girl that you're responsible. It shows your date that you are a responsible person and that you actually care about her.
And a lot of times they playfully interject. Sometimes I say, hey, no, this is my date. I'm paying for you. If you want to ask me out next time and pay for my meal, then go ahead.
Okay, where's the line though? Like when you say you're going to pay, they're like, oh no, let me get it. And it's like, no, I'm going to pay. At what point, like, do you stop the back and
you
forth?
ask for one more
because
time
sometimes
afterwards.
She wants,
that's a good test, isn't it?
Sometimes she wants to
Can you
pay.
negotiate?
Yeah.
But if a guy asks you out, and this question, of course, is for Brittany, guy asks you out, then wants to go splitsies on the check, do you see him as a cheap ass?
No, because I'm a fully grown ass woman too, and I've got a paycheck and I've got a life and I have agency, and I think it's kind of nice. It's sometimes if someone really wants to pick up the tab, like I said, it's a process of negotiation, but I wouldn't perceive somebody to be cheap or anything.
You say that now, but realistically, I don't know.
I've done it. I know.
She says it in real life. Oh, no, it's a lightning round, so we got to move on. So, final topic: happily ever after. Is it a myth? We're going to start with the optimist in the room, of course, Marlow. Is it a myth?
It is not a myth. It can happen. Just expect there to be some bumps on the road.
Kevin, destroy his life.
He watches too many Disney movies. Life is never happily ever after. You're constantly working at life. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, and you should never get too comfortable in your relationship, because the moment you get too comfortable in your relationship is the moment your relationship will end.
Yeah, I think that we should just be happy with where we're at right now and work to really have good relationships now. It's like, why are we working towards this end goal? Then your life's over. I don't totally get that.
That's such a Hollywood thing.
That
is such a roll credits. Yes.
Which movie is that one where that couple, they get married and then it kind of shows this bus driving away? And
it's
they
The Graduate.
Yes.
Dustin Hoffman.
And they look out the window and it's like, okay, we got married. So now
what?
Yeah. I said, I want to see if Romeo and Juliet, if they didn't kill themselves, I want to see how they would have been 20 years later.
Juliet would have killed Romeo.
Juliet would have been like, Romeo, you're always going out hunting. Shut up, woman.
Thou love thy meat.
Why are you always at the pub with your friends?
Thou doth love thy brew.
Thank you for translating it to our non-Shakespearean
translator here.
If it wasn't that, it would have been some sort of plague or something, right? It was bad time.
Totally.
When I say happily ever after, I'm not dismissing the fact that there will be bumps in the road, that there's going to be some sort of obstacle or obstacles ahead. When I say happily ever after, it's despite all of that, we are going to be happy together in doing this. Because when you're with your significant other, you're happy.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
Not all the time.
Not all the time. Life's hard.
I feel like Marlow lives in this world of like everything sunshine and daisies. But what happens when you guys are mad at each other to the point where you don't want to talk to each other? Then it's this awkward, like you're walking around the house and you're like avoiding eye contact with each other and ignoring each other. It happens in real life.
It does happen.
I remember I read somewhere about what makes relationships last is somebody has to be in love at that time, because you go in and out of love all the time. And so someone needs to be in love in that relationship. If one person's in love, one person's trying, then typically you can last, because maybe they'll stop and the other person will now start falling in love. But very rarely are both people in love at the same time after 10 years.
Or even at the same intensity. Maybe they're both still in love, but like the same intensity. I love that. It's sort of like we're sharing the burden of the work, which is keeping our relationship fresh and alive. And
it's a commitment that takes work. I do agree. I'm not dismissing, like I said earlier, I'm not dismissing that there aren't going to be any obstacles or anything like that. I'm just saying that I personally refuse to believe that I have to look at life with some pessimistic view and just realize that I'm going to experience trouble, so therefore I'm not going to be happy.
It's true, but you can't make things trivial. You can't make it feel like, of course, we're going to have good times, we're going to have bad times, but love will get us through. There's a
love and happiness.
There's a lot more to a relationship than love.
Okay, that's our lightning round.
With that said, I want to say I love my girlfriend.
Of course. I think we all not only owe our significant others a brief apology, but we also say we love them, right?
Yeah.
Mutual love all around.
I
love you,
so much
Brianna.
love.
So much love.
Okay.
Sweetie, you need to call me. I miss you. All right, sorry, go ahead.
Why isn't she calling, Kevin?
Yeah,
why isn't she calling?
Yeah, I'm going to text her right now. Go ahead.
When we come back, we put the cap on it, we put the cherry on top of this chocolate sundae, and we finish it off with And Now You Know. Coming up after this, and hey, this is a good time to check us out on Facebook. Check us out at facebook.com/And Now You Know Radio. That's facebook.com/And Now You Know Radio. We'll be back.
Hello, my love. I heard a kiss from you. Red magic satin playing near.
Here on And Now You Know, we tackle the issues that are important, of course, to you. It's time to wrap up, but first we give our final thoughts on what is the biggest myth of marriage, what is the biggest lie about love, and of course we start with our wonderful guest, Brittany.
I think we're always tricking ourselves all the time to make ourselves feel better. So I think that most of these things are myths. The chivalry, which is a lovely notion, but sometimes I want to be chivalrous to somebody else. Can't it go both ways? I think it's just a brave new world, and I think that we can sort of do what we want as long as we feel safe and respected, and we negotiate these things, and we're having a good time, and, just try it.
The biggest dating myth that I think we've been told is that we cannot expect happily ever after. Granted, life is tough. People are humans. We are going to make mistakes. We are going to run into troubles. However, I think what we need to work on as a society is redefining what happily ever after means. Maybe it means something different for you. Maybe it means something different for you. And in doing so, redefining your own personal happily ever after, striving together to achieve that, I think that is something that should be done in every relationship.
The dating myth that love will get you through anything. Love is an emotion. Love is a very generic word. You need to understand that everybody can be in love. We all love each other. But if you're not actually working to achieve what you want in your relationship, if you're just comfortable in the word love and not taking proactive steps to heal your relationship, understanding that there's going to be ups and downs, then I feel that you're setting yourself up for failure.
For me, I feel like society has chosen the words happily ever after to really latch onto, because if you look at the origins of it, it started with stories. It started with things that you read your kids before they went to bed, and it sent them off being happy and optimistic about their futures, which is excellent when it comes to raising kids, but when it comes to actually raising realistic people, it doesn't really work so well. As a matter of fact, I'd say it actually leads to more problems than it does good outcomes. So I would encourage people to look at it like this. Granted, happily ever after as a concept is not really real, but what it can be is it can be freeing to you, because now you have the opportunity to make your life whatever you want it to be. You have the opportunity to actually put in the work, to find a person, to take the time to find the right person. And once you find that person, to really work with them very hard to make that relationship work long term. This has been And Now You Know.
I'm still Marlow Hooper.
Kevin Bailey.
Brittany Machado.
And I'm Austin Krause. Thank you so very much for joining us. Please check us out on the web at facebook.com/And Now You Know Radio. Again, that's facebook.com/And Now You Know Radio. Thank you very much.